2311. Racing just collapsed, and no one saw it coming. Not the fans, not the analysts, and sure as hell, not the drivers. This is the team backed by NBA legend Michael Jordan and Cup Series champion Denny Hamlin. A team born to win. A team that was supposed to shake up the NASCAR world with swagger, money, and muscle. Yet here we are, in the middle of the playoffs, and instead of dominating, 2311 is sinking faster than anyone imagined. And if you're wondering how that happened, don't worry, you're not alone. It all started with promise. After a rocky regular season, both Tyler Reddick and Bubba Wallace clawed their way into the round of 12. That was a big deal. That was momentum. And with Joe Gibbs Racing as their technical partner, 2311 had access to elite equipment, top-tier data, and a red-hot Toyota program that had just swept the first 3 playoff races. Reddick and Wallace were supposed to ride that wave. Instead, they got wiped out. When the green flag dropped at New Hampshire, things went sideways. Fast. Reddick, who had started a strong 4th, began fading. Not slowly, not cautiously. He free fell to 21st. And Bubba? He started mid-pack in 14th and sank like a stone to 26th. 1 lap down. That's not just bad luck. That's a disaster. In the playoffs, every point matters. And Wallace is now sitting dead last in the round of 12, 27 points below the cut line. Reddick is barely better, stuck at 11th and 23 points back. This isn't a case of, well, the car just wasn't right today. This was a team-wide failure. A collapse that shook the foundation of everything 2311 is supposed to be. And the worst part? Nobody inside the garage seems to understand what went wrong. Let me put it in Bubba Wallace's words. It felt like the longest day I've ever had in a race car. He couldn't find the balance. The car had no speed. And brake problems started creeping in like a nightmare. It was the kind of performance that leaves a driver not angry, but confused. That's when you know something's really broken. Not the parts, the system. Reddick's day was no better. After picking up a couple of stage points early on, his car slowly started falling apart. Missed pit box entries, handling that got worse with every lap, and a race strategy that never caught up to the track conditions. He said it plain. As the day went on, it just seemed like the car went further and further away. That's not just a bad setup. That's a team losing control in real time. Now the next stop is Kansas Speedway. And on paper, this should be the bounce-back race. Reddick's won there, Bubba's won there. Even Kurt Busch, a former 2311 driver, has taken the checkered flag at Kansas. This track was supposed to be their ace in the hole. But here's the catch. Neither Wallace nor Reddick has finished inside the top 10 at Kansas in their last 3 starts. Not once, including the spring race earlier this year. So yeah, Kansas has history for 2311, but recent trends? They tell a very different story. And in today's Cup Series, the competition is brutal. One mistake, just one, can cost you 10 spots. A slow pit stop? That's your race. A loose wheel? You're done. And once you're stuck in traffic, it's nearly impossible to fight back. The pressure heading into Kansas isn't just high, it's suffocating. A win guarantees a ticket to the round of 8. Anything less than a top 5 might not be enough. But here's what really has fans scratching their heads: the timing. This collapse didn't happen in the early months of the season. It's happening now, in the playoffs, when great teams step up, not break down. Just look at Team Penske. Ryan Blaney punched his ticket. Joey Logano and even Josh Berry put up top 5 finishes. Meanwhile, 2311 looked like they didn't even show up. Flat-footed, outpaced, out-strategized, and it raises a very ugly question. Are cracks starting to form behind the scenes? Because New Hampshire isn't some surprise track. Teams know this place. It's a flat, technical oval that demands precision. If you're not prepared, it shows. And 2311? They missed the mark. Completely. Despite all their resources, despite all their access to JGR's data and support, they flopped. So now we have to ask, is 2311 getting secondhand setups? Is Joe Gibbs Racing saving the best for their own drivers? Because it sure looks that way. And that's just the beginning. Think about it. Joe Gibbs Racing is dominating. Denny Hamlin's on fire. Christopher Bell, Ty Gibbs, they're all in the mix. Meanwhile, 2311, supposedly backed by the same data, the same equipment, and the same factory, looks like they're running a different race altogether. It's hard not to wonder, is there an unspoken hierarchy at Toyota? Are the in-house JGR cars getting the A-plus setups, while 2311 is left to figure it out with the leftovers? There's no official word of favoritism, of course, but the performance gap speaks volumes. When one organization is sweeping races and the other, your technical partner, is falling apart, it's more than just bad luck. It could be strategy, politics, priorities. And if that's true, it puts the entire alliance between 2311 and JGR under the microscope. Is this really a partnership, or is it a one-way street? But even if you want to ignore the conspiracy theories, the results don't lie. Beyond car speed, 2311 simply didn't execute. Tyler Reddick's pit crew missed on key stops. Bubba Wallace's team failed to adjust the handling. That's not just bad performance, that's poor communication. In the playoffs, you don't get do-overs. When something's wrong, the crew chief has to adapt instantly. The engineers need to solve problems on the fly. At New Hampshire, 2311 looked stuck. They didn't adjust. They didn't fight back. They just faded. And even if Kansas turns out better, the danger hasn't passed. Charlotte Roval is waiting. It's the final race of the round of 12, and it's one of the wildest tracks on the calendar. Road course chaos, restart mayhem, and the constant risk of disaster. Reddick's record there is solid, never worse than 12th in 5 starts. But Bubba? He's never been great on road courses. His best finish at the Roval is 7th, and given where he sits in the standings right now, 7th might not be enough. And that's the real issue. 2311 doesn't have any margin left. They can't afford another bad race. They can't even afford a mediocre one. They need stage points. They need finishes inside the top 5. And they need both drivers to deliver, together. Because one strong car isn't enough anymore. The field is too tight. The pressure's too high. Here's what's really scary. This whole collapse, it might not be a one-time thing. Some insiders think this is a sign of something deeper, because this isn't the first time 2311 has gone cold at the worst possible moment. They've had speed, they've had wins, but they've never been able to string it together when it counts. One week they look like they're ready to compete for a title. The next week, they look completely lost. That kind of inconsistency doesn't happen by accident. So is the team too dependent on outside help? Is the leadership too top-heavy, with decisions being made by people too far from the action? Are the drivers being left out of key conversations? These aren't easy questions, but they're starting to pile up. Because while other playoff teams are sharpening their tools, 2311 is stuck trying to figure out which ones still work. And let's not forget, this is still a young team. 2311 hasn't been around that long. Maybe we're seeing growing pains. Maybe this is just part of the learning curve. But the playoffs aren't patient. They don't care how long you've been around. You either perform, or you're gone. Mentally, this kind of collapse hits hard. Bubba Wallace and Tyler Reddick came into the playoffs with momentum, with belief. To watch that slip away in one bad race, it rattles everything. And when doubt starts creeping in, that's when teams fall apart. We've seen it before. A few bad results, a few missed calls. Suddenly, confidence is gone, and the downward spiral begins. And fans are noticing. The excitement around 2311 has turned into concern. Questions are popping up on every forum, every tweet, every post-race breakdown. This isn't just about speed, it's about identity. Is 2311 built to compete long-term? Or are they just another hype machine? There are 2 races left. 2 chances to flip the script. Kansas could be the moment where everything clicks, and Charlotte could be the redemption story. But if they blow it? If they miss the round of 8 entirely? Then the questions get louder, the pressure gets heavier, and the future of 2311 starts to look a lot more uncertain. This isn't just a slump, it's a turning point. What happens next will define this team, for better or worse. And I'll ask you this, can 2311 Racing rise from the wreckage? Or are we watching the beginning of the end?